How will this new involvement in the U.S. in this conflict impact here in the United States and across the Middle East? For more on these developments, we want to bring in Mike Wagenheim. He is the Washington-based correspondent for the Jewish News Syndicate. Mike, we appreciate you being here with us from the White House this morning. What are you hearing about what's going on in Jerusalem right now? Because we have heard that Iran has launched retaliatory strikes. Has Israel been able to effectively repel those?
Well, it depends on your point of view. There were 86 injured this morning across 3 different strike sites within Israel, in Tel Aviv, in Ness Ziona, and up in Haifa, where an IDF interceptor actually fell and caused some injuries. Several Iranian launchers were taken out this morning during that process. However, they're obviously still able to fire and do damage. By the way, all of these continuing to hit civilian sites, no military sites have been struck in Israel, which is part of the complaint coming from Jerusalem. There's also a diplomatic war battle going on right now, and I think that has been more successful on Israel's front because we look at reaction across the Middle East today, and it's been fairly tempered. Saudi Arabia put out a statement about the alarm vis-a-vis the American strikes last night and concern. The Qataris did the same, but not a whole lot of pushback, not a whole lot of condemnation. Everybody quietly, it seems, understanding that this needed to be done. Nobody celebrating out in the open, but nobody really pushing back as if the Americans are going to be responsible for breaking out World War III here. I think that's more important than anything. If this had happened years ago, I think the reaction from the Arab world, from the Muslim world, would have been much different. We're seeing the traditional American allies, yes, pushing back a little bit, but more for their own domestic bases rather than an international front. I think from that standpoint, Jerusalem has a leg up.
That's a really good point, Mike. The Secretary of Defense moments ago was asked directly, was one of the goals of this military operation by the United States regime change? He pointedly said no, but it's been widely reported that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been pushing the United States and President Trump to execute this mission that went ahead last night. Does that continue to be a goal of Israel from the Netanyahu's perspective?
I'm not sure if it's necessarily a goal. I don't think Netanyahu and anybody within the Prime Minister's office or Knesset will shed a tear if the regime is eliminated. But don't forget, that causes a whole host of other concerns. We heard J.D. Vance just a moment ago here on American television saying that regime change is not something that the Americans are looking for here, that they're not at war with Iran, that they're at war with Iran's nuclear program. Well, if that's the case, if they're at war with the nuclear program and the nuclear program is indeed eliminated and we're waiting for more clarification as to the effects of the strikes last night, then one would figure that would be the end of American involvement going forward unless Iran retaliates against American bases and American interests in the region, which is something else to discuss as well here. But I don't think that Israel, having gotten what they got so far from the Trump administration, is going to want to push more and risk backlash from the White House and risk, sensing a lack of gratitude, lack of loyalty. We've heard those things before from Donald Trump. If this is what Jerusalem got from the White House last night, I don't think they're going to be pushing for regime change just for the sake of it at this point and wind up spending unnecessary political capital on that particular topic.
All right, we are at the very beginning of this story, but Mike Wagenheim, we appreciate you joining us from the White House this morning. He is the Washington-based correspondent for the Jewish News Syndicate.